One whole month is missing. I mean, one whole month has disappeared. It's gone. It can't be found. Do you understand what I'm saying? We've skipped a month.
Chan Koon Chung's 2009 novel, The Fat Years, exposes the so-called Golden Age of China, where prosperity reigns amid the country's collective amnesia.
I moved to Beijing in year 2000 with the idea of writing something about China, including a novel. But I have many false starts. I attempted many times and didn't finish the novel until year 2008. If you remember, year 2008, we have this major earthquake, we have unrest in Tibet, and we have this Beijing Olympics, all in the middle of an economic meltdown in the West. That I found sort of changed the mentality of many Chinese and the perception of people outside of China.
Even though the Chinese version was banned on the Chinese mainland, readers there downloaded a typed version online. The book's depiction of China's dystopia has led to comparisons to such classics as George Orwell's 1984 and Aldous Huxley's Brave New World.
I can imagine people, especially intellectuals in China, will compare my novel with 1984 inevitably, because 1984 is still seriously read by Chinese intellectuals. After I wrote The Fat Years, I immediately took up both and reread them. And I found that I owe more than I imagined to these two books.
Chan returns to this year's Hong Kong Book Fair as Author of the Year, with a new novel under his belt, The Unbearable Dream World of Champa the Driver, which centers on the sensitive issue of China's ethnic tensions.
Champa, that's a Tibetan name because it has a Tibetan element. The protagonist is a young Tibetan man, grew up in Lhasa and speak decent Mandarin Chinese. The young Tibetan man was a kept man, kept as opposed to kept woman, a kept man of this middle-aged, wealthy Chinese businesswoman in Lhasa, until he fell for the daughter of this businesswoman. Every time I wrote a novel, I saw it as my last work. You can never sure when you can have another one, so better do the best this time.
Beijing has been home to the Hong Kong author for more than a decade, during a time of major changes on the Chinese mainland.
Beijing is very exciting as a place, not because of the hardware or the air, but the people. It's the cultural capital of China, so people gather there, and there are a lot of interesting people. So that's very stimulating for me. They're getting less bohemian because money matters. Well, you can make a lot of money being a bohemian artist. I'm an outsider to all the major places that I'm familiar with, namely Hong Kong, Taiwan, and China. But I spent almost the first 40 years in Hong Kong. So emotion, I'm still tied to Hong Kong, and I feel strongest for Hong Kong. I've been out of Hong Kong for quite some time, but literary scene and all the other creative scene have been very, very active. There are more people writing, there are more people doing artwork or doing independent films, comics, whatever. My generation was an exceptionally lucky generation in a way. We witnessed the booming of Hong Kong. I think the younger people are in many ways more resourceful and knowledgeable than we do. Our response may be slower in many things, but life opportunities of this generation is uncertain. Whether they can have the luck of our generation is yet to see.